Welcome, Wanderer. Mercenary just became my favorite character. With 15 hours of gameplay, I'm already sitting in tier 16 maps, blasting those bosses into smithereens. And since we're a Tactician, which pins his enemies with projectiles, and also denies them any action if pinned, they can't even fight back. I'm pretty much walking over a tier 16 map, summoning my Mortar Totems, cluster grenades, and not a single enemy can attack me. And by the moment where they're not pinned anymore and denied their actions, they're already dead. Now you're gonna say, but Pony, armored evasion rating never was a good defensive tool. And you're right, but they buffed it tremendously. With the new stat of armor also applying to elemental damage. 2000 HP, tier 16 maps. Not only are we doing insane damage, on top, we're incredibly tanky. The main star of the show here is the Mortar Cannon, and you need to be level 41 to equip the Mortar Cannon. Which means from level 1 to 41, or respective 52, because that's when you get the cluster bomb, which we're using. You'll have to play the standard grenade playstyle. For that, we have a guide for you linked in the description below. It's going to have you fly through the campaign, pretty much throwing stun grenades at the enemy with multi-shots, and they just fall over and die. And then you keep running stun grenade, keep running stun grenade. Incredible. This build, what I'm going to tell you now, builds up on this. This is the super endgame version that's currently sitting at level 86 with our 75% armor, fully resistance out, ready to ascend a fourth time, tier 16 maps cleared. And we even kicked one of the pinnacle bosses already in the booty hole. We went into the delirium where you have to fight the double boss and the double boss and the double boss again while hordes of monsters are swarming you. But we're pinning them so they never actually have a chance to swarm us. Now, how does the whole build work? How are we doing our damage? What's happening? We're using Explosive Shot together with Mortar Cannon. The Mortar Cannon is having the cluster grenades and the gas grenade. It's not shooting them at the same time. It goes VUP, cluster, VUP, gas. And with Urgent Totems, you can actually spam them out. Really nice. If you don't play Urgent Totems, and you would press the Totem Summon button, you're actually not even going to get them out, right? You need Urgent Totems 3 as fast as possible. Lastly, you get the payload gem. This gives the cluster and the gas grenade a 65% in total with your passive tree to explode another time. With this, we get our 3 mortar totems, shoot out 9 cluster grenades that each split up into 18 individual small grenades, and every single grenade has a chance to erupt twice, the 9 and the 18 times 9. While gas grenades then in between, poisoning enemies, and then boom, going up in flame for super explosions. And in order to not wait for these explosions, we get the explosive shot. This means we're going to put down our totems, and then we're pretty much spamming explosive shot to where they shoot. For this, the explosive shot needs the streamlined rounds, 5 additional bolts. The multi-shot, that is this triple shot because it just explodes more grenades. And the nimble reload for the super quick reload speed. It's pretty much instantious. Lastly, we get the life leech. As we're then hitting into the opponents, we get a little bit of life back, as it's only 30% of physical to fire damage. Therefore, there's still a big portion of physical damage happening with this shot. With these two, your gameplay loop becomes evident. Summon the mortar cannons in front of you and then shoot the explosive shot in to explode your grenades instantious. And as you then zoom through the enemies, you keep summoning new mortar totems, new mortar totems, new mortar totems, because it resets the amount of grenades they have in them. You don't have to wait for them to shoot all of them. Now just keep summoning new ones in front of you, because the old instances of grenade, they spoot out. If they now just shot 9 grenades out, but you summon already 3 new ones, the 9 behind you, they'll still explode, while the new ones are already shooting new ones. And you keep exploding them, and you keep running forward, and you're pretty much riding forward on a wave of explosions, carpet bombing everything, and again, pinning it, denying them actions, breaking their armor, and totally overwhelming the opposition. The whole pinning is coming from your Tactician. The Tactician has a 20% pin build up, 40% immobilization build up, 20% pin build up, and then projectile damage builds pin. Pinned enemies cannot perform actions. That's very important. Everything we do, every single projectile, might it be just our explosive shots or everything that's coming out of the mortar cannon, now pins. Could you play this build technically with another ascendancy? Yes, you could choose the Warbringer. Then you're getting the Warbringer spirits as soon as they're fixed. But you ain't getting the pinning. And the pinning is just incredible. I was doing the Delirium boss, where you get into small arenas that have minions swarming you. And since your cluster bombs are exploding, 9 into 18 each, so 9 times 18 cluster bombs, and the cluster bombs have all of these 108 cluster bombs have a chance to explode twice. And each explosion, each projectile damage builds pin. So wherever someone is anywhere on the map, they're disabled, they're pinned, they can't fight you. That's why the Tactician is so good doing this. And that's only layer 1, because with layer 2, the Tactician is getting persistent buffs have 50% less reservation. That's your third ascension. That's when you level 70, 75 and get the Berea token. And with this, you can add Wind Dancer for more evasion rating, a War Banner for more attack speed and attack damage, then the Time of Need, which heals you in between. We get the Scavenged Plating. This gives us more armor as we're breaking armor, and we're consistently breaking armor. We'll get to that in the passive tree section. And our broken armor also applies to the fire damage we're dealing. Mortar Cannon only shoots fire damage pretty much. Plus, we got the Mirage Archer. That's 30 spirit. Another 15. That would be 15 spirit, 15 spirit, 15 spirit. Plus another 8 spirit from Cannibalism. And we can afford all of this with our simple 108 spirit we have from being a Tactician. Now, what is the Mirage Archer? The Mirage Archer happens when I roll. Comes that little archer out. And that archer is going to use the skill you put into it, namely explosive grenades, that you can then explosive shot to trigger. Then you get to wait 6 seconds until you roll again. So we're just walking around. And then you summon that again. Very good against bosses, as the grenades that are coming out are pretty much doing more or less full damage. Now, if you have problems to put an explosive grenade in here, you're going to make sure that weapon set 1 and 2 are set for the Mirage Archer, but also for your explosive grenade, that weapon set 1 and 2 are set. Because if you only have weapon set 1 set, and then the Mirage Archer is currently in weapon set 2, you will be able to put the explosive grenade in, but it won't work anymore. Only when you're on the respective weapon set. It's pretty damn weird. So we're going to pull it out, activate weapon set 2 again, and now the Mirage Archer works on both. Took quite a while to figure that one out. On top of the Mirage Archer, you're also throwing the oil grenade for elemental exposure that you thread in between versus bosses mostly. You don't need it for anything else, together with the persistent ground and the potent exposure, reducing the enemy's resistance even further. Okay, now let's talk about Scavenged Plating. This gives us another 4% armor per Scavenged Plating, and we can have 10 Scavenged Plating. So 40% more armor is possible. And in order to get that Scavenged Plating, you have to break armor. How do we do this? The node is called Eroding Chains. Break 50% of armor on pinning an enemy. That, together with cruel methods of break 40% increased armor, and on the bottom left side next to the Molten One's Gift, the bonus armor break. You're just on shooting the enemy, on pinning them with your projectiles, instantly breaking armor, to then get Scavenged Plating to be super tanky. This brings me to over 83% damage reduction from the armor. And the Molten One's Gift also says fully broken armor effects also apply to fire damage taken from hits. And as I said, we're doing cluster grenade, fire damage, mini grenades, fire damage, gas grenade, fire damage. Fantastic, we're fire damage. Before we now get into the passive tree, where do we get 3 totems from? First, Artillery Strike gives us +1. That would already be 2 totems, but we actually do have a third. And that is then the Idol of Uldern. It says skills have +1 to limit. The idol itself is pretty cheap, either Chaos Orbs or Exalted ones. You might actually have 9 Chaos Orbs by the time you get level 41, 52, or even some of these Exalteds. You got this. Now the Idol of Uldern is not the only thing we could get. We could get another totem on top. And that would be with a Desecration that says +1 to Ballista limit. Oop. Yep, totems can have this. That's quite crazy. You can aim for physical damage, and this would be, for example, one of the best bows in the game right now. 627 damage, 133 divines, with a maximum number of summon ballistic totems. If you now limit the level, you could find this obviously vastly earlier with Chaos Orbs, only for Exalted Orbs. They're out there, they're waiting for you. I am not playing with the 4th totem. I only have 3, and I'm clearing pinnacle bosses. I'm clearing tier 16, 17 maps. I don't need the 4th totem, but if you had it, if you had a good trade, it wouldn't even be stronger than what I'm showing you. Okay, how do we get now our insane defense? 76% plus another 40% as we then get the Scavenged Plating. And that has a lot to do with weapon swap points. And I'm now going to break it down and make it as easy as possible to understand for you. Weapon swaps happen automatic. I use my totems, weapon 1. I shoot my shot, weapon 2. only that in my case, I'm using one weapon for both. This you can activate by right-clicking on the tippity top here, lock to all weapon sets. Then you're going to open your gem menu, and here I'm saying that my Mortar Totem should work with weapon set 1, and my Explosive Shot should work with weapon set 2. Why do we do this now? For example, we have these 3 points for increased crossbow reload speed. If I now shoot my Explosive Shot, it has these weapon points activated, but it doesn't have these 3 activated. Okay, this is weapon set 2. We're currently in weapon set 2, and I reload faster. If I now summon my totems, I'm in weapon set 1, and my grenades have less projectile speed and explode closer together for more damage. Or my grenades actually have 1 more cooldown use and 1 additional projectile. That's completely useless for my crossbow. But you know what I want to have when my crossbow is active? I would want to have more defense. Because I will summon my totems, and then I'm going to run around in a circle and shoot away my explosive shots. And as you might notice, while I'm summoning my totems, I have way less armor. Almost 20% less. But if I now shoot my explosive shot, boom, 75%. Because yes, in the weapon set 2, I am just way more defensive than I'm in weapon set 1. Because for weapon set 1, we want to have the maximum damage for the totem. Weapon swap points are 24 points that you can spend twice. Because usually these 3 points, or these 6 points in total, I would have to use with my standard skill points. But instead, I can remove 3 skill points from the tree, and then use weapon sets instead. Since I have weapon set 1 and 2, I can use them. And with level 85, we now managed to hit some new amazing notes. First, we're going to take a lot of projectile damage, and that's all with our standard skill points. Then you're going to go for a dexterity and strength mix. We're going to take 40% more damage with two-handed weapons, as that works for everything, and more area of effect. Then we're heading downwards with dexterity and strength mix again. And these grenade points here right now, they're going to end up in weapon set 1. Because we only want to boost our grenades with this, right? When the Mortar Totem is activated, it should get cooldown use, and it should also get the bonus grenade projectiles. Even if you swap away from these points, the bonus projectiles stay on the totems. These 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points are useless for our crossbow gameplay. What's good for our crossbow gameplay, though, is the reload speed that we have here. Which means we're going to make our way down to pick up strength, dexterity, strength. And then with weapon set 2, we're going to get the crossbow reload speed. Then travel further to the right. And here with these 2 nodes, we're going to get 70% more evasion rating in total. No worries, armor evasion rating, we'll talk about that after this, the whole gear section. That would be weapon set 2 again. If I now shoot my crossbow, I'm bonus defensive. While also with weapon set 1, we can get ourselves projectile damage and the reduced speed. Then with 1, 2 points, we can make our way down on the elemental damage, and then spend more of weapon points 1, because we don't need to penetrate elemental resistance with our explosive shot. We don't do damage with that. We only want to penetrate the elemental resistance with a weapon swap. Next nodes we cannot live without, making our way downwards to the right. And again, weapon set 1. That would be increased crossbow damage, increased grenade damage, and grenades have a chance to activate a second time. Then we're moving over to the side with more strength and dex mix, and we're going to take these as forever points. The 10% more evasion rating and 10% more attack damage per summoned totem in your presence, they only work if you actually have them as forever points. What I can put as a weapon swap, though, is the artillery strike for the bonus +1 totem, the bonus attack speed for the totems, and also the bonus immobilizations build-up. These can all be swapped in and stay with the totems. Then we're going to head over to the top and get ourselves a bit more defensive and make our way all the way to the left side with dexterity and strength, and dexterity and strength, and dexterity and strength. And here with weapon set 2, we can take some attack speed to shoot our explosive shots faster, but allies in my presence also have bonus attack speed. Swapping the weapon to the explosive shot, I get attack speed, but the totems too. What I want, though, the totems to have is more area of effect and more area of effect damage. Works really well to just use 2 points for that. And in order to be even more defensive, with weapon set number 2, I can also take all these evasion and defensive points. Now, we have new points, though, that we 100% need to take. And that would be here with dexterity and strength right next to it, the bonus physical damage and break increased armor. And then as we pin someone, his armor gets broken. And bonus physical damage again, plus bonus armor break. That's incredible. And for this, we also want to make it all the way here to the left side. Boink, flip, zippity dip. And we're getting ourselves the increased damage against enemies with fully broken armor, break armor, and our fire damage applies to broken armor. As we're then also here, we can take the armor bonus and 5% of armor is applied to elemental damage. Right now, with my 75% armor, and if I then summon the 3 totems, it's actually somewhat more, we're sitting at 49% elemental damage reduction as well. Haha. And if I had some armor pieces that gave me even more elemental damage reduction, we would sit at around 100% bonus elemental damage reduction against hits, together with the armor damage reduction we have anyways. Fire. Now, one big thing we're doing is we have the node called Iron Reflexes, which converts all evasion rating to armor. Now, that seems weird, but it's really easy to get a chest piece and a helmet with tons of evasion rating. And that evasion rating, on top of the armor that you're anyways getting, for example, from your gloves and from your boots within the more armor and evasion rating nodes, kind of has the armor and evasion rating stuff double dip. Because we're getting more evasion rating, but then we're also getting more armor as everything of the evasion rating is transformed into armor. And that actually leads to quite some nasty armor values. We really love to see it. I even anointed on my amulet the node for 100% increased evasion rating from equipped body armor all the way on this side. Plus, we get this huge amount of evasion rating bonus, right? Evasion rating boosters are just nasty. So it's easier to get a lot of evasion rating boosters on weapon set 2 to then move it over to the Iron Reflexes. Mentioning weapon set 2, that's what we have here. Armor evasion rating, and then our gloves gets +1 evasion rating per 1 armor they have. Essentially double dipping on those gloves. And since we want our totems to attack as fast as possible, we're putting points into another 10% attack speed. Another new thing to the build is playing around with banners. 20% increased glory generation for banner skills, more magnitude, and banners give our totems and me elemental resistance, and also banners last longer. The banner we're using is the War Banner for the 25% increased attack speed and attack damage. It just works so good, it's incredible. And as supports, we have long duration for longer, refraction, which has our armor applied to elemental hit damage, and that's also why we're getting so much armor. Plus, with the Duresso's Passion, that is one of the new lineage support gems, they require 50% less glory to use. So easy to whoop out. And if I would have the final ascension, the 4th ascension now, I can take whoever pays best to get more glory per second, and then whip that banner out even faster, and I could even use more than 1 banner. Final 2 nodes to not forget. We have here on the tippity toppity next to the Ricochet, the node called Fearful Paralysis. We get more immobilization build up, and enemies that are immobilized are intimidated. For 4 seconds, they take 10% more damage and do 10% less damage, and they are not longer alive than 4 seconds. So, pretty much a 10% damage multiplier just like that. And at the bibbity bottom, we're going to be taking more dexterity. With this, if we have 10 red support gems, at least, it's 5% max life. And with another 10 blue and 10 green, it's movement speed and maximum mana. I mostly want to have the max life. The movement speed is bonus, the max mana is bonus. Now, if you've already seen some of my gear, we're trying to get as much max life as we can. 90 maximum life here, another 146 there, on the belt, on the boots, everywhere. We're currently sitting at 2,200 max life, and that's more than enough, to be fair. What we really want to have is these elemental damage also applies to armor on our boots and our gloves, because that would give us roughly 100% of elemental damage also applies to armor, and then we're really super tanky. Getting a chest and a helmet with maximum evasion is quite easy and super boosted. The gloves either have maximum armor or they have armor evasion rating mix. Both works. But really make sure to get that maximum life wherever you can. Your boots can be fully armored if you wish to. If you get 800 armor boots, be my guest, do that. But just make sure that they have elemental damage applies to armor. For the weapon, we're looking for as much physical damage as possible. You want that multiplier 110% increase physical damage as high as you can imagine with the physical damage then. It just calculates better to bring physical over to the fire, as you're also mostly doing physical and not just converting 100% physical to fire, right? It's mostly physical what you're doing. On rings, you can go for bonus physical damage, fire damage, whatever you feel like. But here again, make sure to rather look out for your resistances and the maximum life to be at that 2000 plus. That's going to make the tier 16 maps very convenient. With the Wind Dancer that we mentioned earlier, you're boosting your evasion rating even higher. And with a higher evasion rating, we have more armor. Next step for me would be now getting the Defiance banner on top of the War banner. Ascend a 4th time so I can get the passive glory generation. And also craft myself a crossbow with 450 to 500 damage. But in all fairness, I don't need anything of this to do all the current pinnacle content and just have a good time. I am already nasty out. Obviously, I would like to have new gloves and new boots that have even more armor evasion rating and everything. All in all though, we're super pinnacle powerful, and we only needed to have one single unique item for that, and not 3, 4, 5 unique items. What do you say, ladies and gentlemen? Do you want enemies to look like helpless toddlers and you're absolutely stealing their candy? Tell me in the comments below. And if you would rather like to be a big bonky warrior that's summoning totems and slamming the ground, making lava erupt, here's a Warbringer for you. Enjoy, have a fantastic good day.